to the Group 4 Section 1 tutorial of Follett Destiny. I'm Chrissy Johnson and I'm going to lead you through setting up patron types and designators, creating and importing patron records, updating and deleting patron records, assigning passwords for patron numbers, reserving materials online, and doing interlibrary loans with an automation system. So let's get started. The first thing that you want to do when dealing with patrons is make sure that you have patron types selected, because generally different types of patrons will need different borrowing rules and circulation rules. You don't want your faculty to have the same setup as your students, so you're going to want to make sure you set up those different types. The first thing that you'll do to set up a patron type is you'll log into Henry Follett. Then you're going to come up here to Back Office. You'll click on the Back Office tab. Over here to the side, you're going to see things like manage and update patrons, import patrons, export patrons, but you want to start by going to library policies. You're going to click on library policies, and here you can see the different patron types that are already set up in your system. So for my system, I have faculty and staff, I have Henry County Schools, I have library administration, miscellaneous, and then of course students. Students are set up as the default patron, meaning that any new patron that I add, it's automatically going to say that they are a student unless I designate otherwise. Okay, once you have decided, let's say you've looked and you can't find the patron type that you want, you're going to come down here to patron type. You're going to click patron type, and then you're going to enter in the title for your new type. Then you'll decide the max number of checkouts and the max number of holds that they can do when those holds expire. You're going to look at the different circulation types like ebooks, overnight, regular, restricted books, and yearly. You're going to set up your loan periods for those different books, grace periods, renewable, how many times they can renew. Okay, and then also fine increments if you're going to do fines. These are set up in my system just as a default, but I don't do fines. I do something else with my students. Okay, so once you have all of your things set up, once you click save, it will save that patron type. Now, once you have your patron types created, you want to start adding in patrons into your system. So you do that by going again to the Back Office tab here. So if you were starting from the home screen, you'd go to the Back Office tab. You're going to click Add a Patron. So over here, there's New Patrons. Okay, so you can click on New Patron. All right, and then you have to fill in the patron information. Things like their last name, their first name, their district ID. Now, generally, their district ID is going to be their student number or their lunch number, whatever number that the county has assigned to that student so that they can keep up with that student's records. You can enter in their gender, their emails, their school emails, home emails, any of the information that you want to enter. I keep this really simple, though. I usually just enter in their last and first name, their district ID, and then, of course, the site information here at the bottom. The grade level and grade year sometimes change with students who might not go where they need to go, so I make sure that I leave that blank. Now over here, setting up the username and password. This would be their username and password for the Henry Follett site, our Destiny site. Now, we are a system that has what we call a single sign-on process. That means that the students sign on to the computer is their same sign-on for every program that we offer in our county. So I don't have to set up that password or username. It's what the system has given them, and it will access all of that for them. So I don't have to worry about that. Now, if you don't know if that's something that your county does, just get in touch with your school tech person or your district tech people, and they can let you know what you need to put there, if anything. For the site information right here, the barcode, generally what we do is they are assigned, their barcode is the same as their district ID. So the students have a 6-digit barcode and they're all different, so we just put in their barcode just as a single number. We don't put any letters or things before it. But Follett Destiny offers you to be able to assign barcodes in a sequential order. Just as a new person comes in, they would have a brand new random barcode. And by doing that, if you click Assign Next Barcode, it would assign, and it shows you the barcode that it's going to assign to the student. But we have found that that's just too much for kids to keep up with, so generally it's the same as their student ID number. Then you select your patron type, if they're faculty and staff or if they're students. So that's from what you just did previously in the patron types. So once you, and again, the default is students, so that's what comes up. You can set them as active. If a student moves or leaves your school, you can change them to inactive. You can even change to restricted. We have some students that are not allowed to check out books during certain times of the month as incentives and things like that from their IEP plans. So we have to set them as restricted during those times. Then also down here, you can select their homeroom, whatever homeroom that student is in. Now, selecting that homeroom is beneficial because when you run things like reports, you can select that it show what homeroom that student is in, and then that way you're able to easily get information to that student. And then once you have all that, you just hit save. You can even add in pictures. You can add in address information as well for all of that stuff. Okay, so once you have all that information, you just click save. Okay, once you have added and created new patrons, you might want to know how to update existing patrons. So again, you would go to back office, you'll click back office, and then you could click over on update patrons. So if you click on update patrons, okay, you can select based on an individual patron or a list of patrons. You can select a patron field as like just a certain type or from a certain homeroom, things like that. And then you can enter the patron's name. Once you enter the patron's name and you hit update, it will take you to that file and then you can make changes as needed. Just make sure you select save. Okay, if you want to import a batch of new patrons, generally at the beginning of the year, you can get with your IT, your technology assistant for your school and also your registrar and be able to import students in batch loads, especially new students coming in. Okay, and so how do you do that? Basically, you go to import patrons and then you can choose from a file. And so if you choose from a file, then you can select the file and then you can select import, and that will put all of your new patron information into this system. Deleting patrons is the same, is very easy as well. You click on the back office tab. Okay, you would click on find a patron, so you can type in, for instance, you might type in Christy Johnson. Okay, hit search. Right, there I am. You can edit me that way. You could also delete my, my record that way as well. So this can come in very handy if you need to remove old patrons from your system. Now, once you have imported all of your patrons and you have put them into the system, what your patron sees when they log in is a completely different screen. It's called Destiny Quest. And it's kind of the student version of the software that we're looking at. We manage it, from this system and this view, but students, when they log in, can see it from this view. So this view is how students actually search the database and search the OPAC system so that they can find things. So let's just say that a student is looking for Diary of a Wimpy Kid. They can select go, and then they can see all of the Diary of a Wimpy Kids that we have. And here they're marked whether they're checked in or out or lost in this case. Okay, but let's say the student wants to look at this particular book, The Ugly Truth. So they click on it and they're like, oh man, it's out. There's two available, but of course, look right here, they're both out. What do I do? Well, you can reserve the material online by selecting Hold It. And when the student selects Hold It, it will allow them, do they want to hold both copies, one copy? If they're, generally they'll just select one, and they hit save. And now this has been accepted, and now when the student that has that book returns it and you scan that book, it will pop up a message that says, hey, this book is on hold for such and such student, and then you can deliver that book to the student. And it's kind of cool to see students' faces when you walk into their class. They're super excited to see you when you're bringing them a book that they've had on hold that they've really been wanting to read. Now, the last thing that I'm going to cover in section 1 of this tutorial is basically how to do interlibrary loans. Now, our system does not allow interlibrary loans. We're basically, students are stuck to using the resources that are in their current library. Now, teachers can look and see what books are available in other schools, especially in the case of novels. So that if they are short, let's say 3 or 4 novels, then they could contact another teacher. So I'm going to show you how to do interlibrary loans just in case your system allows that. So you'll start by logging into your Follett Destiny. Then you're going to go to your circulation tab. Once you click on the circulation tab, down here you'll see check-in, renew, holds, ILL, fines, etc. You'll click on the holds ILL, which stands for interlibrary loan. Okay, you can type in the patron name. In this case, we'll just leave me up. Okay, so it has my name. Now, what you can do is you can select add a hold. Okay, so I can type in and add in a hold, but then I can also request a book from another library. So I could type in something like The Fault in Our Stars. Just put that in. And not just my library, I want to do all participating libraries. So I'm going to do all participating libraries. Now, if I was wanting to just hold a book in my library, then I could do that by selecting my library. And this is the screen that I would see when creating a hold versus what I just showed you guys with the student seeing. So I'm going to select all participating libraries. In this case, I'm going to hit go. And so this shows me how many copies are available off-site. So there's there were almost 30 copies available off-site. Okay, I'm requesting it as soon as possible, or I'm requesting to reserve it for a specific date. Okay, I'm going to say any copy that's out there. And then it tells me when the request expires, which would be 2016 this summer, and then I can click save. And when I hit save, it will shoot that request out to all the participating libraries connected through my Follett system. And so anybody can respond to that and accept that and then send the book. But our system does not allow that, so we won't be pressing save or trying to do that today. Well, that concludes the Section 1 tutorial. Thanks for listening.